what are those great noble truths? The first of them is that life is full of unsatisfactoriness. The second is that there is a reason behind the fact that we are leading unsatisfactory lives. Third, there is a possibility of cessation of this kind of unhappiness and unsatisfactoriness. And fourth, that possibility or cessation is totally intertwined with certain practices that we have to bring in our life, meaning that we have to tread a path that will lead us to that state of being when we will be totally free. So these four noble truths Lord Buddha passed on to his hearers. He had uncanny abilities that whenever he spoke to his audiences, he spoke in different ways so that his utterances could be received by each one of those in the audience according to his or her level of intelligence. Elaborating on these four noble truths, taking the first one to begin with, we look around that all existence is infested with unsatisfactoriness. Wherever we look, we find that everything is changing. In this life, birth is accompanied by disease, sickness, death, sorrow, despair, lamentation, union with something that is not agreeable, disunion with something which is agreeable, depression, grief, and all sorts of such things which come to each and everyone's life soon after the birth starts. Birth is a starting point, and each human being is uninterruptedly journeying towards death. This journey starts right from the first moment that we come into this world. And then this journey is interspersed with so many other vicissitudes of life, which most of them are not very pleasant. So, is this all a satisfactory state of being? The answer is no. This is not a satisfactory state of being. This is not acceptable. Something has to be better than this. There has to be a state of being where there is no such thing as pain, sorrow, lamentation, disease, decay, old age, and then finally death. Now, but this is the fact that that is what we are confronted with. We all go through this. We all notice that significant changes happen in our bodies. During the course of life, when we start, we have a wonderful, refreshing, smooth, soft skin. But as we progress, then we see that there are wrinkles on that skin, and the skin loses its luster and hue and is not as much soft left as it was. We also lose many of our faculties. Even in a natural course where a person is not even having any disease, he or she is bound to lose the energy of seeing. The eyesight dwindles. Not only the eyesight, but the teeth also go their way. We come with 32 teeth, but in the course of life, they fall apart one by one, and eventually our mouth is without any teeth at certain point. So everything is changing, and that change is something that we really do not like. It is not satisfactory. We do not accept it. We don't want to. Life is full of unsatisfactoriness. We cannot deny that. If some people label the teachings of Buddha as something of a pessimism, they are very sadly not able to understand the truth. They want to keep their eyes shut on the reality. The reality is that we have more of unpleasant situations to encounter in our life and be engulfed in grief most of the time for one reason or another, or be in depression. And therefore, having understood this fact, we have to do something to free up ourselves. So if we keep going on this matter and understand the whole process, then there is a chance that we have utilized our valuable and very precious birth as a human being and work towards our goal to be free. The more number of births we have, the increasingly more number of deaths we encounter, because every birth is followed by death. This journey everybody has to complete, and we have nothing but something very unacceptable in this whole course. This is the first noble truth, to realize that there is a dukkha, there is unsatisfactoriness in life. The second noble truth which Buddha expounded was that there is a reason behind all of this. The reason behind all of this is that we are spiritually ignorant. We are blinded by certain things which seem so real in our life. In other words, we are in complete delusion, state of delusion. In spite of all the fact, as we stated before, that we go through all these unpleasant events and situations, we still crave for this existence. Isn't this true that somebody who is quite old and is now going through a deadly disease or a disease which is painful, and yet most of us, we don't want to die, we want to continue. We want to perpetuate this existence. We cling to this existence with all our faculties, with all our mind. This is a craving for existence. Or sometimes there is a negative craving, and that negative craving is that we are upset with ourselves, and we want to end our life. We are suicidal. that is a craving for non-existence. So there is a craving for existence and there is a craving for non-existence. But nevertheless, there is a craving. And this craving that is the root cause of our being in this whirlwind of births and deaths. We come back into a form. Whether that form is a human form, animal form, a spirit form, or any other form, but we do come into it. We keep rotating ourselves into different realms because of this Saturn, which is inside us, and that is craving. So Lord Buddha said that the cause of this whole dukkha, cause of this whole suffering was craving. So that is the second noble truth about our existence. The third noble truth that Buddha stated was, and it was based on his own personal experience after he attained his enlightenment, that we should not lose hope. It is all possible that we can come out of this dukkha. The cessation of dukkha, cessation of all these unsatisfactory states is possible. And the fourth noble truth, which further elaborates this possibility, is the path that he showed us so that we could tread on it and therefore reach our ultimate goal of salvation, of liberation. So these are the four noble truths that Buddha expounded. Basically, this is what it is. This is not associated with any sectarian category of things. It is something that everybody can understand and then proceed from there, after that understanding, to work towards his or her liberation. We understand from our general experience that there is an opposite to almost everything. For example, disease has an opposite in health. Heat has its opposite in cold or coolness. Light or darkness has the opposite in light. So in the same manner, unsatisfactoriness in existence must have some opposite also. And that opposite must be eternal bliss and peacefulness. That's the goal that we want to attain. We want to reach that goal. But in the meantime, we are so much attached to this unsatisfactory existence. And what is the reason for this? The reason for this is our ignorance. We have kept ourselves in complete dark as regards this life, because what we see or feel to be very real may be not as real and maybe just be there to keep us in complete delusion. There is more to it than meets the eye, as they say. So, we have to understand what is real. And to understand what is real will mean that we will be rooting out our ignorance. Now in this context, it may be made very clear that having a high education has nothing to do with this world as ignorance. Somebody may be highly educated, but if that somebody does not understand the other side of this life, then that somebody is ignorant. Unfortunately, this is perhaps a sort of a scheme going against us that is keeping us in that state of mind which is ignorance. Just as darkness is removed by light, so as ignorance can be removed by wisdom and self-realization. Now, when Buddha said that there is a way to get out of this bondage and be free from the cycle of births and deaths, what one should do in order to be on that track and follow that track to the ultimate goal. For that, according to Buddha, one must have self-control. Without self-control, there is nothing possible. And that self-control means that first of all, we must have control on our speech. We must make sure that we do not use any harsh speech, any frivolous speech, any slandering speech, or we must not indulge in telling lies. At a time when something is slipping out of us, if we have that kind of practice and control, that we can immediately realize that what I am saying is hurting somebody. It is simply a chatter, a gossip, has no substance. Then we can stop ourselves. We can limit ourselves. And that is the control on speech. Second thing which we can do, or we should do, is make sure that we do not commit any deeds by our bodies which can result into suffering of ourselves or of others. By that it means we must desist from killing somebody, taking life of somebody, whether it is a fellow human being or even it is an insect, is not permitted. It's a violation of the rule of nature's ethics. We cannot provide life. How can we take life? So therefore, we should totally stay away from even the notion of taking somebody's life. We should not steal. By body action, we can take away things of some people which do not belong to us. We should stop that too. We should not steal or take away what is not given to us. We should not commit any sexual deeds which result into harm to others and can result into harm for us too. So all these bodily actions must be well guarded and they must be controlled. The third thing is that we also must control our minds. This is very important because the root cause of everything that happens through us is through our mind. The idea of that action germinates in the mind. Mind is a very fertile ground for germination of ideas, thoughts which can be good or which can be very harmful. All of these things which are currently happening in this world or coming out of somebody's mind. The actions which some people took on 9/11 against humanity were heinous actions which actually were their brainchild, and they executed them. That was not good. So the control of mind is very important for us to bring in happiness to us, because we will be controlling not only our mind but also our speech and our bodily actions simultaneously. These three factors constitute what is called virtue. In Sanskrit or Pali, it is called Shila or Sila. That's the first step on this path. We have to start our life with Sila. We have to put ourselves on this path and open the door and follow up these virtuous things which are enunciated by the Buddha. Then we pass on. This is not just sufficient for us to free us up from this bondage. Remember that this bondage is very strong. So it will take very strong and very numerous efforts to free us up from these shackles. The second thing after Shila is one-pointedness of mind. And that one-pointedness of mind means that this mind which flies in different directions at a very lightning speed, thought after thought comes into mind, and as we said, thought may be good or thought may not be good, but the stream of thoughts is flowing through our mind incessantly and very rapidly. We must control that flow. We must harness our mind so that it only focuses on one point, and that is called one-pointedness concentration, or we call it samadhi. So we have sila and then we have samadhi. There is a third thing that we have to inculcate, and that third thing is when once we attain one-pointedness of mind, we direct our mind for complete self-realization. We direct our mind inwardly, inside us, so as to gain the insight. And that insight is called vipassana. That means seeing things as they truly are, understanding the true nature of ourselves, self-realization. So when we attain these three things, then this three-factored discipline can lead us to a complete liberation. Now, this three-factored discipline also can be translated into eight-factored path. And that's what Lord Buddha said, that this was noble eightfold path. And that was that Noble Eightfold Path, that was the fourth noble truth, that there is an existence of this path that we can adopt to treat in our life, and hence complete the final journey to our ultimate goal, and that goal is nirvana, the state of deathlessness, the state of painlessness, the state of eternal bliss, the state of ultimate peacefulness, and state of freedom from births and deaths. So, what is that eightfold path in our day-to-day life? That eightfold path in our day-to-day life is that first we must have a right view. We must have a right understanding of things. We cannot afford to continue to harbor wrong understandings, wrong views, because they can culminate into a lot of unhappiness for us. We must have good thoughts, right thoughts. If suppose the stream of thoughts flowing through your mind is not something wholesome, then you have to check that trend. You have to discipline yourself so that you can begin to have right thoughts. You must have right speech, and that we have already discussed. You must have right actions. We have also discussed that. The next one is right livelihood. Now there are certain ways that we make our livelihood, make money in life. Some people follow certain professions which are very noble, which bring them happiness, prosperity and well-being, and at the same time do the same for others. But there are certain professions where the livelihood is not really wholesome. By killing and selling the flesh, for example, is not a good livelihood. By spreading the use of intoxicants, dealing in drugs is not a good livelihood. By dealing in guns and other weapons of destruction is not a good livelihood. These are but few examples of the livelihood. Then we must have right mindfulness. We must have right mindfulness means that we must put our mind under our control, that what we do is fully known to us and we do not let our mind go astray. Therefore, we must inculcate complete mindfulness, right mindfulness. And then we must have right efforts. We must put in right efforts in order to achieve all of these things. We must be very diligent in doing the right things, putting in right efforts so as to achieve these right goals. It is very important that we should be very vigilant about what we do and what results those actions that we do can possibly bring. We should be very cognizant of our actions. So right effort is another factor, important factor in this Noble Eightfold Path. And finally, right concentration. And that right concentration is what we discussed, that when we concentrate on our insight and try to boost up our insight understanding, then we are developing the real wisdom about what the reality is. And that is what can lead us to our final salvation. So Sila, Samadhi and wisdom. These are the three things which bring to us all the happiness that we are looking for. When is this all possible? This is not possible if you are a four-legged animal. This is only possible when you have intelligence. You have the necessary faculties which can lead to the development of wisdom. And that is possible only in being as a human being. Buddha had to come on this planet as a human being to become a Buddha. He proved that each one of us has that potential of becoming a Buddha. We should work towards that potential. We should make it our final goal. Whether we can attain that in one lifetime or whether it's going to take numerous lifetimes, that should not matter. We should diligently work towards what is wholesome, what is good for us, good for others. When we exist, we must exist not just for ourselves, but we must exist for others. Lending a helping hand to others, being generous with others, being very patient with others, being very diligent in our efforts, and being full of vigor and enthusiasm in pursuing the goal with all the righteousness. That's what our aim should be. That's what we should bring into our existence. If we are a student, we must work very hard and try to attain knowledge. Worldly knowledge is good. There's nothing wrong with it. We must try to attain the highest knowledge possible, because through knowledge we can benefit the humanity. You can bring in certain new inventions which can make the life of others more comfortable. Nothing is wrong with that. While we pursue our worldly goals, worldly aims, worldly knowledge, we must transcend this, what we call the mundane level, to super-mundane level of attaining that wisdom which is associated with higher and nobler goal of attaining nirvana. We hope that our today's lecture has given some understanding to all the fellow human beings who have cared to listen, and they will try to assimilate these virtues and these higher goals as part of their life. Coming into teachings and being surrounded by such discourses is also a great fortune. So fortunate are those who have developed understanding or who are on path to developing this understanding. We thank you very much for paying attention. May you be blessed.